Could the United States and Venezuela go to war? For many years, the relationship between the United States and Venezuela has remained tense. While there has never been a direct military conflict, the possibility of confrontation has been discussed by politicians, analysts, and media outlets around the world. So the question is simple: why could a war between the United States and Venezuela happen? To understand this, we need to look at politics, oil, ideology, and global power. How the conflict began. The modern conflict started in 1999 when Hugo Chávez became president of Venezuela. He openly opposed the United States, criticized capitalism, and promoted a socialist system known as Bolivarianism. Chávez aimed to reduce U.S. influence in Latin America and build closer ties with countries like Cuba, Russia, Iran, and China. For Washington, this was seen as a direct challenge in a region traditionally considered part of its sphere of influence. After Chávez died in 2013, Nicolás Maduro came to power. Under his leadership, Venezuela entered a deep political and economic crisis. Inflation reached extreme levels. Food and medicine became scarce, and millions of people were forced to leave the country. The United States accused Maduro of authoritarian rule, corruption, and election fraud. Venezuela accused the United States of interference and attempted regime change. Oil, the key strategic factor. One of the most important reasons behind the tension is oil. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. For decades, it was one of the main oil suppliers to the United States. As relations worsened, the U.S. imposed heavy sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry. These sanctions weakened the Venezuelan economy and limited the government's access to global markets. Officially, the sanctions were meant to pressure the government, but critics argue that oil has always been a strategic interest. In times of global energy instability, control over large oil reserves becomes extremely important. Ideology and power. The conflict is not only economic, it is also ideological. The United States presents itself as a defender of democracy. Venezuela claims to resist foreign domination. In 2019, the U.S. recognized opposition leader Juan Guaidó as Venezuela's interim president. This move was seen by the Maduro government as an open attempt to remove him from power. From Venezuela's point of view, this confirmed long-standing fears of U.S. intervention. From the U.S. perspective, Venezuela became an example of authoritarian rule in the region. Military and global politics. Militarily, Venezuela cannot compete with the United States. However, it has built strong ties with U.S. rivals. Venezuela has purchased weapons from Russia and cooperated with Iran and China. This alarms Washington. The presence of U.S. adversaries so close to American territory is seen as a security risk. If a conflict were to begin, it would likely not start with a full invasion. Experts suggest it would involve naval pressure, air operations, cyber attacks, economic blockades, and support for internal opposition. Even a small incident could escalate under the right conditions. Regional instability. Venezuela's collapse has affected the entire region. Millions of refugees have moved into neighboring countries. This has increased pressure on governments in Latin America. The United States considers regional instability a national security issue. Drug trafficking, organized crime, and illegal armed groups have expanded in affected areas. In some scenarios, humanitarian intervention is discussed as a justification for military involvement. However, this approach remains highly controversial. Why war has not happened yet? Despite all these tensions, a direct war remains unlikely. A military conflict would be costly, risky, and unpopular. It would damage U.S. relations with Latin America and push Venezuela closer to rival powers. past interventions have shown that military action does not guarantee stability or democracy. For now, sanctions, diplomacy, and political pressure remain the main tools. Final thoughts. A war between the United States and Venezuela is not inevitable, but the conditions that could lead to one still exist. Oil, ideology, regional instability, and global competition all play a role. The future of this conflict will depend not on weapons, but on politics, negotiation, and restraint. Because in the end, a war would not only affect two countries, it would reshape an entire region.